Hey guys, I'm Robert Ham here with Robert Ham Photography, and I decided to make a video post and link it here for this Thumbtack group, only for you guys, because I've heard a lot lately that of the sounds like Thumbtack doesn't work very well for people, or they're having problems with ghosts, or having problems with people not responding to the bids that they put in. And you know what, that can be very frustrating. And I think I've got some information that I can share with you from my own personal experience that could be very helpful. I also think that people that may be experiencing this with Thumbtack may not be aware of some of the idiosyncrasies of specifically digital marketing, and I'd like to share that with you. I come from an intelligence background as well as a business management and marketing background, is what I've got degrees in, and so I feel like I've got some good information, because using the practices that I've learned over the time has helped me quite a bit with my business. So I'm not making this video for any glorification of self or whatever. I could care less if nobody likes it. I'm making it to help you. So hopefully you're listening, and some of this can be, good food for thought for you. First of all, I kind of would like to say that we have to understand, I got 5 tips. I'm going to try to keep this to 10 minutes, so be prepared to listen if you're interested, and then you can PM me or email me or even call me on the phone if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to chit-chat with you. If you don't agree with any of it, then you don't need to call me or contact me. This is market specific, so your market may be different. I won't be going over too many numbers, but what I will be saying is that the number one rule that I think is important, or strategy, that's much better than rule. Let's think strategy. The number one strategy that I have about being successful on Thumbtack happens to work with any kind of business, and that is to know your market. Now, a lot of us may think that we know our market because we've been operating in business, whether successfully or just kind of hit or miss, but that doesn't really mean that we know our market. Unless you can answer questions about the wedding industry, assuming you shoot weddings, right? That's what I'm talking about. But unless you can answer specific questions about the wedding industry in your area, then you don't know your market. And that means that your pricing may not be what you expect it to be. And because your pricing may not be what you expect it to be based on a market that you may not understand, means that you might not have an easy job or time winning bids on Thumbtack, because Thumbtack is a very price-centric organization, and that's okay, because there are strategies that we can employ with communication that can help us build value in what we do. But let's talk about this. The first place I think you should go, because it really helped me to learn about your market, and I know that was a tangential sentence there, but what I'm saying is the first place I think that would be helpful for you to look at is costofwedding.com. For me, it's very important because I can go there each year, every couple of months, and look at the updated stats to find out what's actually happening in the wedding community. This is all self-reported information, specifically by the organization Cost of Wedding, that puts together reports to help professionals make money. That's what they do. And you can get your report free. You don't even need a code. I'm not selling anything. They would like to sell you a membership. It's $40 a year. Big deal, right? So that you can have all the stats for your area. But the report that you can generate just by answering a few questions is very simple. Because of that, I know that there's about 4,500 to 5,000 weddings in Virginia Beach each year, recorded at the magistrates or the courthouse, because you have to get a wedding license. Second thing is, I know that in Virginia Beach, the average wedding is $28,000, but I know that only 33% of the people pay more than $10,000. So that means, knowing that if only a third of the weddings that take place in Virginia Beach are over $10,000 and the average wedding is $28,000, then that means that those third of the weddings that are taking place in Virginia Beach are really expensive, to the tune of $30,000 to $40,000 each, and that the other weddings are to the tune of less than $10,000. So that means that we've got a skewed standard right here. So we have to understand that that's skewed. So when we think about a $3,000 or $4,000 wedding, can that possibly be an average wedding in Virginia Beach? Well, it depends. If you want to make 10% and 66%, 2/3 of your wedding clients are less than $10,000, that means at 10%, 2/3 of the money that you're going to make in Virginia Beach at 10% is going to be $1,000 or less. That only means that 1/3 of the weddings that you could book in Virginia Beach would be at $1,000 or more, because it's over that $10,000 price mark. And we know that at least enough of them are high enough to skew to bring that price up to around $28,000. So you got to have some math. Now, what the point about this is, people that are looking for you on Thumbtack aren't usually $10,000, $20,000 photographer wedding hiring. That's not what I've found. I found that most people that are hiring on Thumbtack are right around $1,000 to $1,500, with a majority of them being an 8, some of them being a little higher. But for me, it's usually $1,000 to $1,500, and that I can book maybe 8 to 1,000 or whatever. But the point is that they're price-based buying. They don't get a chance to know you. And so if you don't understand your market, how do you expect your customer to understand the market? Because they're on a discount site in the first place. They're on Thumbtack, right? They're looking to find you and get something at a very cheap price. But that doesn't mean you have to work cheap. It just means that you have to understand your market. And once you understand your market, you can then begin to communicate with your customer effectively. That's my strategy number 2, is communication. Thumbtack is excellent for me because Thumbtack provides great leads. Believe it or not, you may not think so, but have you tried to communicate with them? And if you immediately say yes and furrow your brow and cross your arms, I'm going to say you probably didn't. Let me tell you how many times I communicate with a customer within the first month. At a minimum of 7 times. The initial, the immediately after they have seen it, 1 day after they have seen it, 3 days after they've seen it, 5 days after they've seen it, 1 week after they've seen it, and then on the 30-day mark. Okay? There's 7 communications that take place for every customer. And I spend about $100 a week on Thumbtack. That's what I do. And I try to just bid for weddings that come up. Whatever I see that I want to bid on, I bid on. And there's a law of averages that you have to understand. You won't get to understand the law of averages until you start building up your own numbers. So what do I track? Well, in my communication, I track how many bids that I send and are never opened. I know that 12% of the bids that I send are never opened. I've got that over 5 years of data to support that. So guess what? I know that if I send out 10 bids, basically one of them's never going to be open and refunded. Basically 1 in 10. We're friends here. We can round. What's 2%, right? We can just say 1 bid is going to be refunded. That's great. So I know that I've got that in my bankroll, in my credits, to kind of roll me over. The second thing that I know is that about 80 to 85% of my bids are opened, but don't contact back. Okay, only about 5 to 10% of my bids actually contact me back after they open it. So that's important. So once again, we'll say 10%. Once again, out of 10 bids, 1 will be refunded and only 1 will email me back. That means the other 8 don't ever do anything. Aha! That's where the communication comes in. I'm not content with only a 20% hit rate. 20% get 10% of my bids back and refunds and only get to communicate with 10 people. That means that if I want to book 10 weddings over the next 10 weeks, that I have to send out 100 bids. My friends, that's not going to work. That's what that information tells me. So here's what I do. I make sure that I communicate. So if a person has put in a request and I submit a bid and they don't contact me back and that gets refunded, I wait. I don't continue sending emails because I know something. I know that if they were actively looking, right, on the bid that hasn't been open, and we're talking about that 10% now, because they're your sleepers. If they were actively looking, they would have been waiting for that bid to open. They would have been waiting to see what they got, but they didn't. So if 2 days go by and I get that money refunded, that means they're a hot candidate for me to send a templated email that says, hey, Jennifer, did you see my $500 bid or $10,000 bid or whatever? Hey, log into Thumbtack and check it out. I'm here for you. And sometimes, and in that I'll end with Robert Ham and my phone number, because I know that when they get that email from me, it'll pop up on their phone through Thumbtack and it'll show my message. And it'll show my price, it'll show X amount of hours that I said, and it'll show my phone number. So they can contact me directly there. So what I have found out is that I've got about a 40% return rate on bids that were refunded to me as long as I send them a follow-up email. Because I understand how Thumbtack works. And that's good. Now I know that we said we were going to cut this off at 10 minutes. We're rounding out that 10-minute mark, but I want to continue talking about communication with you because I think it's important. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to get it through already, but I want to continue. So I hope you stick with me. What about those other 8 bids? So we talked about 2 of the 10. We talked about the first bid that was refunded, and then how we got them to answer back to us by sending follow-up email afterwards. We then talked about the bid that called us right away. Let's talk about them. They called us right away. Most likely, they are calling everybody at that point. If you send a bid and you get a call right back or communication right back, they're going to be good at contacting everybody. So it doesn't mean that you're out of the running yet, but it also doesn't mean you've won anything yet. It just means they're contacting you. And this is where your communication should be polished, should be excellently polished. And so what I want to show you here, I don't think you'll be able to see it, is that when people contact me back and they say they want to call, I immediately send my wedding investment guide. Now, I know you can't see it just because I can see that you can't see it. Sorry about that. But my wedding investment guide is a 14-page PDF, mostly text, a few images, but it talks about everything that I do. See, what I want them to know, because I recognize that Thumbtack is a discount site, is I want them to recognize that I'm sending them a current fair price that I'd send anybody else. I don't discount. There's no reason to. I've got good prices that match every price point all the way up to around $10,000. People can purchase what they want. No one on Thumbtack has ever bought a $10,000 wedding from me. In fact, no one's ever bought a $10,000 wedding from me either. But I have it there so they can see what it would look like. So when people ask, there's a price bracket through all of them. Also, there's some special marketing things. I don't photograph any wedding that's less than $1,500, period. Those are my Esquire wedding plans. I'm Robert Ham Photography. You get me at least $1,500 and more. Otherwise, you get one of my associates, my first shooters that have been working with me for at least 3-4 years, and they will come and photograph your wedding. I'll do the editing. They'll perform a lot of the original editing, but I'll be the one that does the final look of all the photos. Very important for my style and my business. What that means is that if on Thumbtack I have agreed to photograph their wedding, because I will say that in my quote to them, I will photograph your wedding because I'm on a discount site anyways. So I'm not discounting the price, but I'm giving them an upgrade because they will then see that Robert Ham does not photograph every single wedding. Robert Ham only photographs certain weddings, and that adds a bit of prestige to the fact that I will be offering personal attention to them. Okay? So that's what happens to the one that does contact me back. Now, what about the other 8? Remember, we were talking about 10 bids there, and I said about, there's another about 7 or 8 that don't contact me back after they look at my email. Well, that's where my communication method comes into play. I send them immediately, right away, when they view the email, my quote, and Thumbtack tells me, I immediately send them a thank you for viewing your quote. I hope it met everything that you wanted. I've got a really nicely worded email that goes along with that, and it encourages them to contact me. Now, some of them will, some of them won't. But what I have found, that contact right there, as well as a couple of additional images along with it, as well as my 3-day contact and my 5-day contact, will generally drum up an additional 2 people to contact me out of those 8. Okay? So now what we're looking at is a real ratio of roughly 3 to 4 contacts out of every 10 that I make that I actually get to talk to on the phone and see in person, face to face. And generally speaking, when I get to sit down with someone, I've got a 75% contact to contract rate because I've kept my numbers. So if I get to talk to you 3 times out of 4, I'm going to be able to book you. So now we can stop talking about weddings in terms of, how many do I want to book? We can say real simply, if I need to book 4 weddings, then I need to be able to sit down with about 5 people. And in order to get to that point, I need to have right about 30 people to 40 people in my pipeline and push it on back. We also have to recognize that your archived leads require communication monthly as well. Your archived leads are a great source of unexpected last-minute income. Okay? And for me, I've got additional photographers in my group, so it's easy for me to have an additional source of income and give it to a photographer that may not be working that day. Because when I send out these monthly emails to the archived up until their wedding date comes up, it's things like, congratulations, I'm so happy about your wedding, have you found a wedding photographer? It's pretty vanilla. But I find that every once in a while, maybe once every 6 weeks, someone pops up because a plan changed. And they're so thankful that I kept communication with them. Now this is full time. I spend hours doing this stuff. And you might say, oh my goodness, we're going to spend so many hours. What's it worth to me? And I would question you that as well. What is it worth to you? This is the type of prospecting that you would need to do if you want to make Thumbtack viable. See, Thumbtack's not giving you the Glengarry leads. Coffee's only for closers, guys. You have to work your leads, and then you earn that cup of coffee. And that's a real deal. Now, I come from a recruiting background in the Army, and I come from a sales background when I got out of the Army and all this other stuff. And I'm going to tell you, you don't get anything for free. So if you think you're just going to send out some Thumbtack quotes and wait for some bids to come through that say, yeah, we'll hire you, that might happen, but more often than not, you have to do something about it. Now, it doesn't take me very long. I keep everything in an Evernote file, right? While it's on my phone, I can take my phone and I can just copy and paste for all those additional templates that I want whenever I need to copy and paste. So it's something that I can do while I'm sitting down and having a cup of coffee. The other part, we talked about this is my strategy number 3, is very polished presentation everywhere you go. All of my stuff is polished, and I find out whether or not people like the presentation in the Thumbtack because I ask them. Ask every single one of them. They have a form to fill out as part of their contract when they hire me. Who did you talk with? Did you talk with anybody? Would you like to tell me who you talked with? What did you like about me? What could I have done better? What about my presentation was confusing? I have all these questions. So I'm collecting a lot of data. And so I'm constantly churning and updating my presentation process. And I guess tip on strategy number 5, and we're going to roll in number 6 to it, but 5 and 6 is we prospect on our feet and in our seat. So this is what I do for my living. So if you're looking at Thumbtack and thinking it's an advertising avenue that's going to bring you a bunch of leads, but you're not working the leads like they're your living, you're going to have a much more difficult time. See, if I don't do this, then I won't bring home money for the family. Now, if you guys would like to learn more about me and what I do and what Thumbtack helps me do with my job, which is a photographer, Thumbtack helps me find good qualified leads. I'm very satisfied with Thumbtack. I've had exceptional success. Go read my About Me on my Robert Ham Photography on my website. And it'll tell you I'm a dad. I homeschool my son. I've got a family. My mom, she goes to work. The kids, they go to school. One of my sons had a tragedy, and I have to homeschool him. I teach karate, okay, and I photograph weddings and family portraiture. That's what I do. I even got to have a channel. Got a couple channels on YouTube because I like to share how you can do this, and I play the guitar and I do all that stuff. My point is, Thumbtack helps me enjoy a very decentralized lifestyle. I don't have to show up to work for anybody. Okay, the boss is me. Even on the weddings, I'm in charge of the photographic vision. The brides know that. We have a good time. I get to laugh. I get to play. I have my son with me all the time. And this is a life that Thumbtack is a part of. I have other marketing methods. Don't worry. I market on both Facebook. I market on YouTube. I also market on Google. On YouTube, my market is to talk to other professionals and share experiences about photography and how I edit photos. If brides and grooms want to see what it goes to take in and edit a photo and see what I do, they can go and see 175 videos on YouTube about how to go through everything and what I do. I enjoy it. Different cameras, all that other stuff. I shoot film. People like to see that. So that builds a professional work presence. We're talking about having a polished presence. That builds a professional presence. People like that when they see that. They recognize it when I do some video work or make something special for them that I'm making it. I got the printers here. I do it all myself, except for really big format stuff. So that's part of having a polished presence. On my website, I just get straight in. I don't really talk too much about anything other than letting people see full galleries. Ooh, why not let your clients see your full? I'm proud of every single one of my photos. They're all gorgeous. Every single one of them. Okay? And so you can go and see a gallery, 300 photos, and see beautiful photos throughout. That's my typical delivery on a day-long wedding is 300 photos, 6 categories of photo, about 50 images in each category. So I do it from detail images to pre-wedding, wedding, reception, and then formal photos. So, maybe 50, 60 images in each one of those. But you can see that. You can see generations of families that from grandmother to mother to son and daughter and that have been photographed, and so that gives a professional polish to what you're doing. When you send away your work, like my PDFs and my electronic brochures, that's a professional piece of work that I had to engineer so it looks good, that people would want to watch. And lastly, my business card. You know, I had a graphic design team come up with my business card, and I get compliments on it all the time. One thing's for certain, I have a gold business card I give to all of my booked clients, and that's important because that business card is good for redemption of a 1-year anniversary photo session in this area. And what that means is now that that gold business card, okay, is valuable because they want it. And brides and everything else, I've been asked, well, I want the gold business card. And it's a nice way to say, it's a takeaway. I get to say, only brides of Robert Ham Photography get the gold business card. And it's because we've worked long and hard together, and that's actually part of my loyalty program for my customers, so that you can come back and photograph a beautiful 1-year anniversary session with me. So if you want the gold card, we have to work together. And that's a really important thing. So it puts a little bit of drive and motivation in there. It gives people a sense of prestige to have things that just aren't given away. And that's the way your work should feel as well. Guys, we've come around 21 minutes. I want to thank you for sticking around and watching this. Any of you that may have questions or just want to talk, you're definitely welcome to send me an email if we'd like to chit-chat over the phone. I don't mind answering questions and things like that. If I can help you, that's great. The reality is, although there's lots of clients out there, we're so far apart. The photography community, especially like this, should be more sharing. So I don't mind sharing and being helpful. Guys, Robert Ham, RobertHamPhotography.com. You can catch me over on Twitter and Instagram at RobHamPhoto. You can find me on both Facebook and YouTube at /Robert Ham Photography. Thanks for watching.